Thursday edition of the Lombardi Line, hour 2 on the way as we welcome you into the program live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. This show, as always, presented by DraftKings. I'm Stormy Bonantoni. Adam Burke in for Michael Lombardi today. Plenty to get into over the course of the next hour, talking Final Four, NIT Final that is upon us. Got some Major League Baseball with your partner, Double Play, the baseball betting podcast, Dustin Sweetelson, joining us a little bit later. We also have Justin Perry of Shot Quality, who's going to stop by. So needless to say, this is not going to be a slow-rolling hour, Adam.
No, it's going to be a busy hour. Good to be here, though. I enjoy filling in with you.
Yes, I love the in-person, and of course, it helps that Adam's my buddy in real life, so it's just nice excuse to get to hang out together a little bit. And obviously, you're so dialed in basketball right now, and we do have the NIT that is coming up today. The other Final Four, Seton Hall and Indiana State. Indiana State and everybody's favorite Kareem Abdul-Jabbar laying 3.5 in this spot, total around 160. Anything that you did like in this game?
No, not really. I mean, Indiana State is a team that they played well throughout the course of this tournament. They played well throughout the course of the regular season, honestly. It's one of the reasons why I don't really like the conference tournament format. I would love to see a change made to that, in that if you win the conference tournament and you weren't the regular season champion, you play them for a spot in the NCAA tournament. I think that would be a really interesting wrinkle to go with there. But Indiana State, I mean, top offensive team in the nation in 2-point percentage and effective field goal percentage offense. They're not a great defensive team. They're a good defensive rebounding team. Seton Hall, really good offensive rebounding team, well-coached team, coming, of course, from a stronger conference in the Big East. I would lean very, very slightly towards Seton Hall getting 3.5. I think the half point there is important as well. Some of the market is 3, some of the market is 3.5. If you can find 3.5 on Seton Hall, preferably minus 110, that would potentially be the bet I would make, but that would be the only bet I would consider in this one.
Yeah, and they are a team that beat UConn, one of the few to be able to say that this year. So when they're on, they can certainly beat anybody. Also, I feel bad saying Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Milk Chamberlain without actually saying the guy's real name. Robbie Avila, everybody, one of the funnest players in college basketball over there at Indiana State. Now, from the championship game in the NIT to the Final Four, we have a couple of big favorites that are coming up this weekend. UConn laying 11.5, 12, depending on where you look, against Alabama. We have Purdue, the other top seed remaining. They're laying 9 against NC State. And UConn, as if they didn't already dominate everyone in their path on the way to this Final Four appearance, they have been finding motivation from nothing, because Danny Hurley is like the ultimate motivator competitor. Now they have all these flight travel issues yesterday, and I feel like that's just another thing that they can say the NCAA is against us, and we got to be out with a mission today.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The NCAA books all the travel for these teams here for the Final Four. So Dan Hurley will leverage anything that he can. I mean, he had a very legitimate gripe about the region that they drew. It was definitely the toughest of the regions for the number 1 seeds. Here they are anyway. And then it was also one of those things where, Sweet 16, we got to play on Thursday. Oh, lucky us. So Hurley just finds motivation wherever he can, and now he's got another one of, and this team's going to go back-to-back. And I think there's this perception in a lot of sports that a repeat champion is boring. Maybe this one's boring just because UConn has completely dominated everybody in 2 NCAA tournaments.
When you look at any of these look-ahead lines for a potential title game, was there anything that stood out to you? Or same thing with like title game matchups, odds-wise, exact outcomes? I know we talked earlier baseball, how big the menu and market can be. Even with just 4 teams remaining in the NCAA tournament, they're still giving us alternate ways to bet these games.
Yeah, so if the chalk holds up in both games this weekend, if Purdue and UConn win, UConn right now 5.5-point favorite over at DraftKings. I think UConn's a play at 5.5. First of all, I don't trust Matt Painter. I know Matt Painter got his team to the Final Four, got over the hump. Good for him, because he's been beaten up a lot, a la Rick Barnes, a la some of the other guys that are out there. But I think UConn is a 5.5-point favorite. They're just too good. Their shooters are too much better on the outside. They're too good defensively. This is a UConn team that is, a top 10 caliber team in terms of 2-point percentage against, actually number 2 in the country. Like, they would have answers, I think, for Zach Edey. And their offensive efficiency is so good that they can move the ball around and not worry really about Edey there. They'll get him moving, get his feet kind of going, and then they can go the other way, shoot a 3, something like that. I just think UConn would out-tactic, for lack of a better term, Purdue in that game. So I think UConn minus 5.5, if they played Purdue, would be the way I would look.
Could I tempt you in the title game matchups market to a UConn NC State at 4-1, just because NC State every single step of the way has exceeded expectations. They have been an underdog in 7 of the last 8 games, winning all of them outright, by the way, 9 straight elimination games. I know that they were a 14-loss regular season team on a 4-game losing streak heading into the ACC tournament, but they seem to be operating on a different level themselves, and DJ Burns is playing significantly better the last 5 games than he did the entirety of the season. He's been a different player in the tournament.
So I think there's 2 ways to look at this. The first is, can you make an argument that Alabama is more likely to beat UConn than NC State is to beat Purdue? And I realize UConn is a bigger favorite, but Alabama has the path to victory because they can shoot 53s, and if they make them, they make them. So I could make an argument that Alabama is more likely to pull the upset. However, NC State, what they did defensively in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight, specifically the Sweet 16 game against Marquette, that was one of their best defensive performances of the entire season. So I kind of thought NC State would come back to the Sweet 16 and struggle. They didn't. They wound up playing their best defensive game of the year against Marquette. And then, of course, they beat Duke, the team that they're very familiar with. But defensively, they were excellent in both of those games. Purdue now, they've got Zach Edey, right? You can just throw the ball inside. He gets fouled, goes to the line, whatever. But in this game played in a cavernous football stadium, where I could see all of the guards between these two teams struggling to shoot, can NC State wear down Edey? Will they get maybe a more favorable whistle or more of a non-call whistle? If that's the case, NC State is live here. So I think there's a path for both underdogs. I think both of them are very difficult to see. But despite the fact that I think Alabama could shoot enough threes to beat UConn, I don't think it happens. I could see NC State finding a way to beat Purdue. Can you get me to do it at 4-1? I don't think the return is big enough at the current price to do that. But I could envision a scenario where NC State wins. I think it's harder to see that with Alabama, despite the fact that their style of play seems like it would intuitively give them a better chance.
4-1, that exact matchup with UConn, plus 340, NC State to beat Purdue on the money line. 9-point spread, UConn laying 12 against Alabama, plus 525 for the Tide to get the upset against the defending champs. Last few minutes here, I want to go from college basketball to college football because Andrew Marchand and Stuart Mandel of The Athletic put up an article yesterday reporting that some important people like Len Perna, who's kind of like a search firm guru, and some big people in college football, university presidents, ADs, Brian Rolap, who might not be a name that most of you from a fan perspective recognize, but he's kind of the number 2 NFL exec behind Roger Goodell, potential commish in waiting. He's advising the group. So it's an interesting collection of people in positions of potential power that are discussing and have created a proposal for a super league in college football. And I understand, like, we all have made the comments that the current system is broken. The NCAA's oversight of the sport is broken. Whether it's NIL, the transfer portal, a lot of things need to be corrected. And we do a lot of complaining without a lot of results or ideas of how to fix it. And these people are coming forward with an idea to fix it. So I'm going to lay this out for you and you tell me what you think. Essentially, the idea is 80 teams, 70 fixed teams with 10 others that'll be subject to relegation or promotion, similar to European soccer, from the remaining pool of schools, which will include, it's 130 plus. So the remaining pool was going to be 60 that'll work in or out of that remaining 10. As for the postseason, within those 80 teams are 10 team divisions. Division winners and 8 wild cards will complete the postseason. And from what I understand, those wild cards will be based exclusively on record and tiebreakers beneath that. So we're not having a selection committee. We're not having rankings, BCS style from that standpoint. So it'll be an NFL style 16-team playoff. Go from there. So borrowing some ideas from some of the best leagues in the world, I think this is the first proposal of potentially many, but something to get the ball rolling, I think, is intriguing.
So I think the most interesting thing to me in perusing this article at The Athletic here just now is 2 of the people that are quoted in this article are the chancellor of Syracuse and the president of West Virginia. 2 teams that will not be like playoff caliber teams in this league. They just don't have the resources, the recruiting pipeline, anything like that. But yet these are 2 teams, the ACC and the Big 12, that are very much in favor of this idea. So what that would tell me is there is a trickle-down effect of a lot of money coming to the other schools that are part of this that aren't going to be the premier schools, the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Georgias of the world, Michigans of the world, all those types of teams. So if there's money to be had for Syracuse and West Virginia, what kind of money is there to be had for the premier college football programs? And by the time this happens, I mean, it would probably be several years, 5+ years in the future. By the time it happens, there could be a shift. The power dynamics could change, all of that. But if it's Syracuse and West Virginia, two prominent officials there at those two schools that are part of this group, there's a lot of money involved. When there's a lot of money involved, people figure out a way to get things done. So I think there's a decent chance of some sort of proposal like this coming together here in the near future, because to your point, exactly what you said, college athletics are irreparably broken with basically free market, free agency. So, yeah, I mean, I think something has to change, and it seems like somebody out there has an idea, and they've brought it forward, and it sounds very intriguing, especially when you consider the fact that the NFL doesn't really have a minor league, So, I mean, college football kind of serves as that in a way. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, separating from the NCAA as a governing body, I think, is inevitable for college football. When that happens, I don't know. Will this version happen? I don't know. There's going to be a lot of legal involved when it comes to the television contracts, because we have all these deals with the conferences, the CFP, that are locked up until the 2030s where things sit right now. You think about NIL and paying players, there would probably have to be a salary cap, a union. Like, there are so many different layers that it would take a long time to figure things out. But at least there is an acknowledgement that what we have currently is not working, and potential stepping stones for what things could look like in the future in college football, which I personally find exciting. We're going to hit the break. Back to a little hoops talk. Justin Perry of Shot Quality joins us coming up next.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Buonantony, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on the Lombardi Line from Circa Resort and Casino, Stormy Buonantony and Adam Burke with you. Adam in for Michael Lombardi today, who's getting some well-deserved time off. And let's get back to a little college hoops conversation as Justin Perry joins us via the Progressive Guest Line, Shot Quality analyst. You can check out the Justin Perry Show at Justin Perry 8 on X as well. And Justin, first off, for anybody who doesn't know what Shot Quality is, can you break down what it is that you guys do and how it's important in influencing the way you approach a lot of these games?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you guys for having me on the show. Really excited to be here to talk a little bit about Shot Quality. And what it is, really, we analyze the video of every single shot taken in the college basketball game, NBA game, across the entire game of basketball. We have a couple of years, almost a decade, close to now under our belt, every single shot, and we're able to analyze our own expected make percentage of every shot that happens in a game. So we're able to kind of come back in with our data, look at what we use is the process of the shot. Sorry, but we use the process of the shot to evaluate how often we think it's going to go in and score it based on an expected point value, so that we can come in and say, all right, well, if shots went as expected, what a team performance would be, a player performance would be. So you can kind of understand the game past just the luck of the, over under performances, the crazy bounces that happen in basketball all the time.
All right, Justin, and looking at the Final Four here, I think that Alabama-UConn is maybe the more intriguing game, especially because of the style of play that Alabama has, taking so many threes. But your favorite bet here, at least in terms of the Final Four, taking a look at NC State and Purdue. What is it that you're seeing or that the data is seeing about that matchup?
Yeah, I really like this matchup because I just think, Zach Edey is going to be a big problem. We saw it a little bit with NC State in their last game. They had a lot of foul trouble. We know Edey is going to continue to go at the rim. He plays smart on deep foul problems, allows teams to kind of, maybe get that layup instead of contesting and getting a foul and sending them to the line. I'm not sure that Diarra and DJ Burns are going to be able to do the same thing. I think that we might see some fouls build up for them, some limited availability in the second, and this Purdue team can just execute down the line, has the depth to be able to just run NC State off the floor, maybe late. I think it's going to be a contested game in the first half. Expect to see, some really fun, down low post play, which is what both these teams are really good at. Purdue gets the line at a really high rate, very high frequency of post of shots with Edey. NC State, the same thing, very high frequency post of shots, both in the top 10. So expect to see maybe a little bit of that old fashioned style. I just think it might lead to maybe some trouble for NC State down the line, seeing kind of their own medicine while Purdue can attack you in other ways. The 3-point shooting from NC State is just such a low percentage of what they do, and they're going to rely on going inside. If Purdue can sort of use that gravity of Zach Edey to pass it out to the 3-point shooters, which they're very good at that too. That's the problem. They're good at everything. I think Purdue just pulls away at the end and shows they're the team that deserve to go to the finals here, even with this amazing Cinderella run from NC State.
Yeah, and with all that said, I just wonder how challenging is it for you guys? Like, I know it is for me, at least as just a fan and outsider looking in at a lot of these games with NC State, to evaluate them now based on what we know of this team from the regular season. They just look and feel so different.
Yeah, they really do. And I think, they've definitely been overperforming a little bit. We have them sort of expected to be losing these games. And that's not any knock on them. I think it speaks to how well they are playing, right? Shot quality will tell you the expected average. And these guys are out here playing really, really well. I mean, you have players shooting in the 50, 60% in terms of field goal percentage. It's going to be a lot more points over their, career expectation or their average on their shots. So there's always two ways to look at it, right? That run can end or they can continue to overperform. And it's, kind of the analysis perspective to be able to identify that now with the shot quality and be able to say, hey, they are overperforming. And then how does that really relate to what goes on with Purdue? I mean, you want to look at the Marquette game. We got a lot of traction on that shot quality score because it was 81-64 in favor of Marquette. Well, Marquette missed 28 something threes. It's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. So it takes that type of performance or underperformance from one side and another to create that Cinderella. We just think that this is, on the average expectation is that Purdue is where that will most likely end.
Justin, I assume by now you look at the data for UConn in the NCAA tournament, and it says that they're going to make every shot and their opponents are going to miss every shot with how dominant the Huskies have been here. What do you think about this Alabama and UConn matchup with the Huskies laying double digits down there in Glendale?
Yeah, Illinois, they went right at Donovan Clingan, and that, I think, led to a lot of fair criticism. Illinois shot 26%, their worst of the season at the rim, 9 of 35 attempts. I mean, that just can't really be happening. If you're going that cold at the rim, you need to adjust, and there was no adjustment. And I think Alabama has a very key opportunity here to just hit the threes, right? I mean, they've shown that they will just run and gun. And if they can hit some of those threes, they might be tough looks. They might be well contested by the very well-sized guards for UConn. But there is a distinct chance to me that they do get those shots to fall and the game kind of comes in closer than expected. I do think it's going to be tough. I mean, look, Donovan Clingan is a monster in terms of affecting shots. He's at that level that, it's almost hard to analytically look at comparing him. And, he's probably the best defensive player in the league right now, in my opinion, at least down low. And so, that impact is almost hard to quantify. And you can see it because it's like, wait, why is everyone shooting so bad? Why did Illinois do so bad? It's him. So we'll see how Alabama adjusts. I do think it comes down to those threes. So my play on it was really looking at the over because I do think Alabama is going to definitely need to get past that 74, 75 point team total that they're implied to have in this game if they're going to cover.
To that point with Illinois, they shot 5 of 38 when Clingan was on the court, 0 of 19 on shots contested directly by him. So he is awesome. But 15-1 Alabama is this season when making 12 or more from range. So we'll see if they can get hot. I see you have a little parlay action as well for the Final Four. What are you piecing together?
Yeah, so I have the first half for the game with Purdue. I do think NC State keeps it close and get like plus 5.5. And then I'm going to take the second half for Purdue. Minus 4.5 is out there right now. I think FanDuel or a couple books will let you parlay these together. You can get like plus 205 right now to be able to get that early start for NC State to stay close, Purdue to kind of come back and take control at the end of the game and maybe run away with it, sort of how I'm seeing that one unfold. And then again, that aspect that I just said for Alabama, for them to cover combined with the over, because I see a lot of correlation with those two, and you can get a pretty good price combining those lines.
Well, before we get to the Final Four, Justin, coming up here on Saturday, we get the NIT final tonight, Indiana State and Seton Hall. This one at Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. So I guess Indiana State, a little bit of a home court advantage here in this one, at least from a crowd standpoint. What are you looking at for this matchup tonight, where you got Indiana State team that is elite offensively against the Seton Hall team that plays in a much stronger conference and is the better of the two defensive teams?
Yeah, I'm leaning Indiana State. Our shot quality metrics really love their shot selection, both offensively and the defensive shot selection allowed. They're third in offensive shot selection and second in defensive shot selection allowed. So just pretty great stuff in terms of what they're going to force you into taking on defense, as well as the shots they develop. And I think the defense has maybe been a little bit of an understated part here. 3.5 feels a little small in terms of the price that you're going to get. I prefer that a lot to the money line here. There is a distinct chance that Seton Hall can do it. So if you like Seton Hall personally, I'm probably looking at them on the money line rather than that spread. I think they win outright rather than this tight game in terms of the way that I see like the distribution of the likely results in this game. So if you're a Seton Hall person, I would recommend the money line. And if you like Indiana State the way I lean, the high spacing, the high rated spacing, the good passing, efficient free throw shooting, the rebounding on defense is an underrated part of their game as well. And they just, they do not allow a lot of shots at the rim on defense. So it's going to be interesting. I think Seton Hall will have to hit their shots, and we know Indiana State can hit theirs. So that's why I lean that way. And my favorite play there would be the spread on the Sycamores, who, who knows, man? Always, we can talk about it for years now. What could have happened if they were in the spot for Virginia and Seton as well? And I guess today it crowns the champion of who it should have been. So it's going to be a fun game. I'm definitely going to tune in.
Justin, you're awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Hey, Stormy, Adam, thank you guys. You're great too. See you soon.
Make sure you check out all Justin's work at Shot Quality and The Justin Perry Show. Follow him on X at JustinPerry8. If we had a fan favorite bracket, who do you think would win between Robbie Avila and DJ Burns in the final?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think it has to be Robbie Avila.
Yeah.
I think so. The nickname helps.
He's
right?
just...
It's such a catchy nickname.
Wheeling and dealing out. What's your favorite of the nicknames?
I think Larry Nerd is hilarious.
Really?
I think that one's funny.
Milk Chamberlain just like you can't hear it and not smile, I feel like, but excellent. Either way, going to be a fun game today. Coming up in the NIT Final Four this weekend. Women's Final Four rolling on tomorrow as well. The Caitlin Clark experience. UConn and NC State, by the way, both their men's and women's programs in the Final Four. So a special end of season, early April for a couple of programs around the country. We're going to hit the break. When we come back, Adam Burke's partner in crime on Double Play, the baseball betting podcast, Dustin Sweetelson, will join us live from Bar Canada. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Bonatoni, on VSiN, the sports betting network.
For a limited time, we're offering 2 weeks of our exclusive betting splits for free. All you need to do is sign up at vsin.com/splits. Our VSiN betting split page is updated with DraftKings odds every 5 minutes, so you can see changes in action, find out where the public's betting based on the number of tickets, and where the money doesn't match the public opinion. You can check out not just today's games, but future events as well. Take advantage, though. This is a limited time offer. vsin.com/splits. That's all you got to do. Claim your free 2-week access to VSiN's betting splits. We had a little bit of technical difficulties connecting with our guy, Dustin Sweetelson, hoping we can get him on in the last block. So if you're tuning in looking for baseball, you just got to hang out with us a little bit longer, and we'll make sure that we get to it.
Not a bad thing to hang out with us a little bit longer.
I think that the people at home would enjoy that. I'm excited to talk to Dustin, though. I love his personality. He's fun. He got me almost with his April Fool's engagement joke. So where do you sit on April Fool's, by the way? Because that's something that, because of social media, I feel like has exploded so much more than back in the day. And I am very gullible. And we have check marks on everyone now. How am I supposed to know what to believe?
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I hope Dustin has that moment someday, and I hope he waits until April 1st to do it, just because that's kind of his shtick now. But no, I'm not a fan. And look, it's hard enough to, it's hard enough to get confirmation of things on social media now, like on any other day, let alone on April Fool's Day. So Not for me.
I'm just laughing that when he corrected it and was like, guys, I'm not engaged. He said, I can't believe any of you thought I had such an ugly thumb because of the thumb that was in the picture. So good. Anyways, Dustin Sweetelson, he's, of course, doing a great job, has been for a long time on Sharp Money on VSiN, which is the show that airs after ours on the Lombardi Line every single day on VSiN, and joins Adam with the Double Play Pod. But before we get to baseball, let's keep it rolling with some of this basketball talk. And it feels like we've dug into a number of different angles as it pertains to how to approach each game, even looking at look-ahead lines. But there's also a lot of different prop betting options and opportunities that are available. We talk about these markets expanding, and some with some big plus money possibilities. And usually on Wednesday, we do Why Not Wednesday with some of these props. We thought it'd be fun to approach this with you as well and see if there is anything that you think would be worth a pizza money sprinkle or you really liked. And let's start with the big man, Zach Edey of the Purdue Boilermakers. Could you see him scoring 40 points and Purdue winning? He's obviously, of course, coming off the big performance, plus 380 for 40 points in a dub for the Boilermakers.
I mean, I think 40 points is a big ask, just because, I mean, when you look at the game that he had last time out with 40, I mean, he was 14 of 22 at the free throw line. And we've kind of talked about this already throughout the show, that I don't really anticipate the officials calling the game to the point where he goes to the free throw line a ton. And also, I mean, free throws may be a little bit more difficult to make. We talked about the shooting backdrop and the sight lines already here. With the fact that this is being played in a football stadium for the Final Four. I certainly can see Purdue winning, obviously, being a 9-point favorite. I don't see the 40 points, though. I mean, it's not like he did it any other time this season, except for that last game.
Yeah, it's a good point. He is pretty fun to watch, though. I just feel like if you're looking for a plus money bet, there are probably better ways that you could throw something out there. That 40-point performance was more of an anomaly than it was the norm. But let's look to the guy on the other end that's going to be playing down low, the big man for NC State, DJ Burns, who has been playing above his skates for this entire tournament compared to what we saw in the regular season. DJ Burns to have 10 points or more, 5 or more rebounds, 5 or more assists, 6-1. Could we get there?
Well, I think we get the 10-plus points, which is probably the thickest of the limbs to go out on. In terms of rebounding, I mean, this is a guy that really only averaged 4.1 rebounds per game. So I don't think we get there. And then the assists, averaging under 3 assists per game. Now, I realize that NC State will want to get him his touches, and he may have to be more of a facilitator to try and open up some clean looks for the guards. So maybe he winds up a little bit of an outlier performance from an assist standpoint, but I think the points will get there. I don't know what his prop is for points. I don't see that right now over at DraftKings. Maybe that'll be something that we post a little bit later, but I could see him getting over the points because I think they're going to have to get him touches, and I think the goal from Kevin Keatts will be, let's beat up Edey a little bit on the inside. Let's get the ball down to our big man. Let him play physical with Edey, kind of knock him around a little bit. I could definitely see, Burns getting over the 10 points, but I don't know about the other two.
I feel like I would rather just bet NC State to win on the money line versus a prop like this, because going through his stat line, to your point, he had double-digit rebounds once in the regular season, beginning of February against Georgia Tech, and the one game against Oakland in the tournament where he had 24 and 11. And I know, like I said, he's playing significantly better in the postseason than he was in the regular season. His first 31 games of the year, he was averaging 12 points per game. Now, over the last 9, this stretch of elimination games, 16.6. His field goal percentage is up 15%. His assists per game is even up a full assist per game. He's had 3 20-point games compared to just 1 throughout the entire regular season. So he's playing much better. I just think that there's more you can do here. I hope that we can find one for you that you want to say yes on.
Well, look, I mean, here's the thing. Again, it's the NCAA tournament, right? There's a lot of supply. There's going to be demand to meet the supply. At plus 380, Zach Edey to score 40-plus and Purdue to win. He's done that one time this season, once, and it's plus 380. Here's another one with DJ Burns, right? He's under that total for rebounds on the season with a season average, well under that total for assists. It's 6-1. Maybe that price is a little bit more attractive, but again, a lot of these one-way betting markets are not going to be very true odds. So that's something you really want to take into consideration here. This is kind of more of a getting caught up in the March Madness moment than a bet that has a lot of equity to it.
What about Donovan Clingan and Grant Nelson to score 20-plus points? This is 12-1.
the one about this is we've talked about this a lot, what Alabama's strategy is going to be, right? They might as well just shoot 60% of their shots should be threes, right? Because that's the only really path to victory that they have to beat UConn here. So with that in mind, there are a few things that kind of come into play here. The first would be, what happens in terms of the pace of this game? Because you get a defensive rebound on a missed three, sometimes you want to run, right? You want to get out there and transition. Can Clingan get up and down the floor enough in that type of situation, or will this be a pretty guard-oriented game for UConn? I think that's one of the big questions that you have here. The second one here would be on the Alabama side, who's taking the shots here for them? Because Nelson is a guy, he's the big guy down low, very efficient two-point guy, not so much from three. He's taken 106 threes, only made 29 of them. He's a 27% shooter from three. If that is Alabama's game plan, and it's going to be 60% threes, which I think it should be, and Nate Oates is a smart guy. I'm sure he's thinking the same thing. How many shot attempts does Nelson actually get in this game? So this is another one I wouldn't be interested in it. Despite the 12-1 price that looks attractive, I don't think there's enough of an inside interior presence with Nelson for the Crimson Tide to get him enough volume to get over 20 points.
Okay, so that leads me to this next one, which I think maybe I could talk you into, although maybe you would just want to look at his three-pointers prop in general. But you talk about Alabama needing to hit from the perimeter. Mark Sears, 30 points and 5+ threes against UConn. He was 7 of 14 from three against Clemson. He had another 5-3 performance against GCU. We talk about that being the way that this team is going to have success and is going to win. And he does have a 30-point performance in the tournament. He's averaging more than 24 throughout. So, thoughts?
So, I mean, he's had 30 points or more 4 times during the season here, but this is a little bit of a different element. Now, again, I think the difficult part here is if Alabama's not shooting well, UConn already plays at a very slow tempo anyway. So, if UConn has a lead, they're going to take the air out of the ball. They are going to just salt the game away, take all 30 seconds on the shot clock. Maybe they get an offensive board, take, another 20 off the shot clock, something like that. So that's a concern for me. Will Sears have enough opportunity for output in this game? He will be the guy that they probably look to be the primary three-point shooter. So I think 30 points and 5 3-pointers, if Alabama is shooting well, I could see it. But again, UConn plays to about 63, 64 possessions. And if it's a blowout, then this is a game that will be played around that range. So this is the one that's most interesting to me at 6-1. But yeah, he's only had 4 such games like this so far.
And quite frankly, the price isn't that far off from Alabama to win the game. So
right. If Sears has 30+, they're probably live-ish to win the game.
Will there be a buzzer beater 25-1 in any of these games?
I mean, you got a spread of 11.5 or 12 and a spread of 9.
So you say you still want a bigger number?
It's kind of hard to see one, but, I mean, if there was to be one, I mean, again, Alabama would have to shoot really, really well, and Purdue would have to struggle.
Everybody's like having interest in these dogs and talking about why they could keep it close. So right. Not out of the realm of possibility.
Well, and I think it's also
1.
Well, it's also really important too, though. You have to look at the house rules on something like this. What designates a buzzer beater? So it's got to be a shot that effectively wins the game right at the horn, which makes it even more difficult to get 25-1.
Which, by those requirements, we have yet to see a buzzer beater in this tournament. So if we did get one this weekend, it would be the first of the NCAA tournament in 2024. Rumor has it, we have worked out the kinks behind the scenes technically. The Dustin Sweetelson will, in fact, join us next on the program. Don't go anywhere. Getting into some major, oh my goodness, league baseball talk when we return.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Buonantony, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
There's never been a better time to have skin in the game with DraftKings Sportsbook, because right now we have a VSiN exclusive offer for new DK customers. When you use our code Lombardi, earn a $500 bonus bet for every $1,000 you wager, up to $2,500 in bonus bets your first 3 days on DraftKings. Don't wait. Download the app now. Use the code Lombardi when you sign up. Again, that earns you a $500 bonus bet for every 1,000 you wager. Alongside Adam Burke today, Stormy Bond and Tony with you as we welcome you back into the Lombardi Line. Talking a little baseball, 6-game slate coming up in MLB. So to help us talk it all over, Adam Burke's partner in crime on Double Play, a baseball betting podcast, Dustin Sweetelson, live from Bar Canada, joining us on the Progressive Guest Line. He's also the co-host of Sharp Money, which airs right after our program, so you don't have to miss a moment of Dustin. What's going on, my friend? Nice shirt.
Oh, I'm just watching the Mets melt down. We're in mid-season form. It feels right. I don't want to say it feels good, but it feels like a bit of normalcy in my life when the Mets let me down, on a regular Thursday afternoon.
Is that why you're wearing that shirt, so you still at least feel happy vacation vibes while you're going through this?
Is he in Bar Canada or Margaritaville?
This is a slump buster because if you go over to VSiN.com/picks, things are not going well for your boy when it comes to betting baseball right now. I'm getting crushed harder than when I asked Holly Gorman out in 7th grade, and she said no and told the whole school, so no one would go out with me after that. It's not been going well, so I needed a little bit of a vibe change. The weather's getting a little bit better, so I said screw it. It's Hawaiian shirt season now.
At that age, aren't you supposed to do the check yes or no? You shouldn't just be taking rejection like that. It should be a softer sell.
Check yes or no is a great song.
Well, if you think I asked her out directly, you're crazy. I had my cousin do it on the phone for me with me on a 3-way call.
Dustin, are you paying homage to the Trop with that shirt? Is that why you went with that?
Yeah, R.I.P. to the Trop, where the new baseball stadium will be, hopefully for someone other than the A's when they move here, because I don't know about the two of you. Stormy, you're a Vegas native, so you should be, out protesting. Can we just tell Rob Manfred we don't want the A's and give us something else?
I thought we did, and they just decided that this is what was going to happen anyways. Plus, let's throw our taxpayer dollars into it as well. Just all of these things that we're getting the worst team and we're having to pay for it. So not particularly thrilled, but it's okay. From what I understand is there's excitement that Aaron Judge is going to hit home runs in a minor league ballpark. So there's that. What else are you hot about right now? Are there any teams that you are really, really liking, really disliking, or just strong feelings you have at the start of the season?
I'm not trying to overreact too much, but I would tell you the Mets season is over. I'll just firmly say that. I watched them play enough baseball. They played 4 full games. They're almost done with one now against the Tigers. This team is an absolute joke. I'm actually excited for the A's to move here to Vegas, guys, because if the Mets trade Pete Alonso, I will be a fan of whatever team comes to Las Vegas. I'm done. I'm over it. I'm sick of the nonsense. I'm sick of the roller coaster ride. I just want some consistency. There's so many ups and downs, and believe me, the downs go way down with the Mets. So I'm ready for something else in my life. The Yankees intrigue me if they can, wade things out without Garrett Cole for a while. I'm really high on Adams' Guardians. I'm really high on the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are a team that are built for the 162 long haul of a season. I don't know about playoffs. I don't know about World Series. Maybe they could get hot at the right time, but I like their depth. They have to deal with some injuries. And then there's the Dodgers. The Dodgers are just, it's obscene, it's unfair. And hopefully it gets so bad where they're so dominant, we can get a bad guy in the sport again. The sport desperately needs an evil empire a la the Yankees in the 90s and 2000s. We need a team that we can hate again, and hopefully the Dodgers are so dominant everyone hates them.
Well, I know you're high on my Guardians because you're sitting on Shane Bieber 30-1 to win the AL Cy Young, which looks like a pretty good ticket at this point in time. Was there anything else that you played before the season that's either off to a good start or a bad start?
Is there anything else I played? Who are you talking to? Look, I like taking long shots early, seeing if I can, beat the jump. I did that with Bieber. Another one that I really liked was Jose Altuve MVP at 50-1. He missed the start of last year because of injury, came back and hit lights out again. And I know he's getting older, but his style of play, his contact hitting, I think it all lends itself to not much of a decline at this point in his career. And I think the Astros offense obviously is going to be awesome with him as a key catalyst for them. The problem is you've got Yordan Alvarez, if he stays healthy, absolutely in the mix. Kyle Tucker, 100% in the mix, speed, power combination, so that could pull votes away from him. But I've got bets all over the place, guys. I couldn't stay away. Ryan Pepiot's a guy I took a flyer on 100-1 for AL Cy Young because it's the Rays, and I just trust if they went out and got a pitcher, they have a plan for how they're going to use him. Do you guys get down on anything pre-flop?
I got win totals. I mean, I got the Marlins under, which is off to a nice start, which I feel like is kind of payback for being on the Rays under last year, where they had like the most ridiculous month of April ever. So I got the Marlins under. I got the Mariners under. That one looks pretty good right now, too. But, nothing in the awards markets, just because I think a lot of times, Bieber obviously is going down in price, and you'll never see 30-1 again. But, a lot of times you can get some of these guys at pretty decent numbers throughout the course of the season. Like, in fact, John Goulet was in here, our program director, before the start of the show, and he mentioned that a shop in town already has the Orioles at 3-1 to win the AL East, just because of how the Yankees have started here so far. Baltimore's still the best team in that division to me, Dustin. I don't know about you.
Well, the thing about Baltimore is the Orioles you're seeing right now are not the Orioles you're going to see when it matters later in the year. They have such a surplus of young talent, as we saw from what they did in the minors. Adam and I touched on this on the podcast this morning that'll be out later today. Their minor league team dropped over 20 runs last night. They're absolutely absurd. Guys ready to be in the majors, but there are no spots because the Orioles have drafted and developed so well. So my point is, if you like the Orioles, and there's no reason not to, especially with the addition of Corbin Burns, this is not who you're going to see. They have new ownership. They have a surplus of young talent. They will go out at the deadline and be very aggressive to capitalize on this window and get started with a World Series banner right now.
Double Sweetelson of Sharp Money, Double Play, a baseball podcast, joining us on the Progressive Guest Line here on the Lombardi Line. And with that, you talk about the pod being posted later today. What can you tell us about what we can all expect from you and Adam throughout the course of the season? How often is the pod going to be posted? What you got?
So twice a week, you'll get us Mondays and Thursdays. Adam and I both love baseball equally. I think that's why we're a good mesh for this, but we come at it from totally different angles. Adam is analytical. He looks at the numbers. He has stats to back up everything he thinks and feels. I come from an emotional place of not a lot of rationale in my thought and just a lot of just general enthusiasm for the game. I love baseball. It is my favorite sport still, even though I'm like one for my last 11 in bets so far this year. I love baseball. I still think there is a sect of people that still love baseball. And as long as Rob Manfred's running it, I have concerns about how popular baseball can be. Hopefully our podcast can help change that.
Yeah, I think the balance that we have is good. In fact, we introduced a new segment. I got to give my right-hand man, my senior editor, Zachary Cohen, a nod for this. Our Sayberk Metrics segment today on the show. We talked about some early season stats, some things to keep an eye on that are both applicable as a fan, but also as a bettor. I think it is important to make the distinction. This is not a betting podcast. It will have betting elements in it and some of the picks that we like and stuff like that. But this is kind of talking about baseball in general, but also some things that could have some fantasy baseball impact as well. Pitchers with velo increases, velo decreases, all that kind of thing. It's just a general baseball podcast that has something for everybody.
Sounds like a fun...
by the way, you will know what I bet on based on my tone talking about teams the next day, whether I like them or hate them.
I'm excited about the dynamic between you two, though, because it is totally different perspectives. You got the betting with your head versus betting with your heart and all of that coming to fruition on the stage every day. So, Dustin, what is your heart telling you today, aside from sweating out the Mets in extra innings right now?
Yeah, so I like the Royals later today, first 5. Lugo's on the bump for them, and I watched Lugo a lot as a Met and actually really liked him. Taking on Mike Soroka and the White Sox. Soroka went 5 in his first start, allowing 4 earned, 7 hits, 3 walks against the Detroit team that's really struggling to score against the Mets right now in Queens. I just think Soroka's a guy who missed 2 full seasons, 7 starts at the MLB level last year, and he wasn't really that good. I think it's an opportunity for the Royals who are up and coming to take advantage of that and knock him around. And then I have 2 bets I'd like Adam to co-sign on because I haven't placed him yet, but I like both dogs. I like the Nats plus 110, and I like his Guardians plus 130 against the Twins, even though it's Pablo Lopez. I like our boy Bybee.
Well, I don't know if I can co-sign on either one of those, but...
That's why I didn't bet him.
I mean, look, the Pirates are off to a start that I don't think is sustainable for them. So Martin Perez he's a pitch to contact guy. There's a lot of variance in any of his starts because does the batted ball get hit at a fielder or not? Are there guys on base when it gets through or not? So it's really tough for me to play on or against guys that pitch to a lot of contact. So that one's a little bit difficult for me. Bybee, he struggled with his control in his first start against Oakland, walked 5 guys in 4 innings. That is very much not his style. I would expect him to be better today in some respects against the Twins, at least from a strike throwing standpoint. But that's why I took the Bybee to allow over 4.5 hits, minus 125. No, that doesn't mean they're going to lose, but I think he'll throw more strikes, pitch to more contact today.
Dustin, this was a blast. We appreciate you, and have a great show today on Sharp Money.
All right, you do the same.
That's Dustin Sweetelson. Again, make sure you check out Double Play, a baseball betting podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you heard from Dustin there, which I already know you did, you got 3 hours of him and Patrick Maher on the other side. Sharp Money coming up next on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.